Thank you, Biddy, very much. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda this evening is reports of city officers. Under that, number one, comments by mayor. I have three items this evening. First is the appointment of Holly Brown as chairman to the Elawa Farm Commission. Do I have a motion for that approval?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Appointment of Georgia West to the Elawa Farm Commission. Do I have a motion for that approval?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the under the section of comments by mayor, proclamation for Arbor Day, April 16th, 2013, and I'm going to subject you to my reading this, if you would. Bear with me. Whereas Arbor Day will officially be observed in the state of Illinois on Friday, April 26, 2013, by proclamation of the governor, and the planting of trees on Arbor Day is a traditional activity throughout the state and the city of Lake Forest. And whereas Lake Forest, with its environment of natural areas, is particularly dedicated to the observance of this day and has consistently throughout its history enacted ordinance to preserve its trees and other natural assets. And whereas citizens groups, garden clubs, private and public institutions have actively supported preservation efforts and the renewal of natural areas through tree planting and landscape projects. And whereas the celebration of Arbor Day 2013 in Lake Forest will include the distribution of 2,000 swamp white oak seedlings to students in public and private elementary schools, and Arbor Day 2013 will be celebrated throughout the day in programs at schools and other locations, and at Melody Farms located at 350 North Waukegan, and on Friday, April 26th at 10 a.m., where the city's official Arbor Day trees, one swamp white oak tree, will be planted. And whereas trees in our city, wherever they are planted, increase property values, enhance our business and residential areas, beautify our community, and are a source of joy to gladden the hearts and promote the environmental well-being of present and future generations. And whereas the city of Lake Forest has been recognized as Tree City USA for 32 consecutive years by the National Arbor Day Foundation. Now, therefore, as I, as acting mayor of the city of Lake Forest, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 26, 2013 as Arbor Day in the city of Lake Forest, and I urge all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and our woodlands, to support our city's forestry program, to plant trees on this day, and to join in the celebration ceremonies. Thank you. Next item on our agenda this evening is comments by the city manager. Bob?
Mr. Acting Mayor and members of the City Council, I have just one item on the agenda this evening. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had a number of inquiries here at the staff, and I know aldermen have received calls regarding what's going on at Forest Park. You have in front of you a mailer that will be going out, I believe, later this week to residents in the community, interested residents in the community, as well as adjoining property owners to Forest Park, giving them an update. But we asked, and we're very fortunate this evening that we have a special guest. The Honorable former First Ward Alderman Tom Swarthout is here to give us a report on behalf of the Forest Park Project Board. So with that introduction, Tom.
Mr. Hiley, members of the City Council, Mr. Mayor, so thrilled to be here. I feel like the Pope. Very nice.
Are you going to wash our feet?
Whatever it takes. You know? I am the B team. I'm here representing the Forest Park Committee. I am the co-chairman of the engineering committee of the Forest Park. And Ralph Giswaldo couldn't be here to give you an update, but I wanted to assure you that we are on time and we certainly are on budget, especially with the Phase 1 project, which is the majority of the infrastructure improvements that will begin starting in the middle of August. So we are diligently, and by the way, and that work should be completed by the end of the fall. We are now working on some of the finer details of some of the road system, curbs, and pathway material. Some of those mock-ups are being constructed as we speak, and some of those final decisions will be coming in the next few weeks. We are also delighted that we have hired Augie Ciccarelli. Some of you may know is a longtime resident of the city of Lake Forest, but it specializes in both public-private partnership projects. In fact, a lot of experience in the city of Lake Forest. He will be the construction manager for the Forest Park, interfacing with city staff as well as general contractor, some subcontractors, as well as the funding sources that we have identified. So Augie brings a lot of strength. He's worked on projects such as Elawa Farms, Croya, Grove School, as well, even Gorton Community Center. So he's a highly respected individual and has really helped us focus in on scheduling as well as costs. With that, I'd be happy to answer any and all your questions as it relates to the park and our...
No, the only other thing I think I would add, Tom, is that really over the last 2 to 3 months, the Forest Park Project Board, in conjunction with Mike Thomas and Bob Ells and the Public Works staff, really have been looking at the hardscape infrastructure improvements to what I'd say value engineer. I think we went out and did sort of a preliminary bid and found the costs were a little higher than what we thought. And so we went back to the drawing board, and I think to Tom's credit and the credit of a few other members of the project board, what they're trying to do is really look at this project and say, are there ways that we can make some modifications that won't compromise the quality of the improvements down at Forest Park, but will save everybody some money going forward. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Well, thank you, Bob. You know, I think what I would add is that those costs weren't certainly related directly to some of the heavy infrastructure improvements on the site. That is the road, the storm lines, the limited sewers, the power relocation. Those items did in fact come in under budget. It was some of the what I would describe as the more visible improvements as it relates to the hardscape, the stone work. We are exploring actually recycled granite curbs that are really being reutilized, and those come from the East Coast. But they have a great character, but we've had issues with those costs as well as the actual hard costs of the path that themselves. But I think, have real confidence that we can bring those numbers in line, and there's a lot of subjective costs that can be also reduced. And I think we've made some great progress. But anyways, we tentatively scheduled a groundbreaking early in August, understanding that there's issues with access to the beach as well as parking, but we think we're comfortable that everything is falling in place.
And just quick thought, I mean, as far as phasing, we're in mid-April. It's probably been about the wettest March and April possible. Construction season usually doesn't commence until summer or later in the season. So, I mean, as far as phasing, I can't really say that you're behind schedule or have disappeared in any way. You know, certainly you want to get this right. Certainly you're creating a park for the next 50 years or 100 years. Certainly I think you would take a reasonable amount of time to get it right. So, you know, I appreciate your comments, but I don't see them as being behind on schedule at this point. I think that's a bit presumptuous.
Right.
Well, I don't think we are. I think we are fortunate as well to have so many in-kind contributions in terms of removal of some invasive species on the bluff, and we've done all that tree removal and have completed that, and very pleased with the view sheds that now are I think apparent if anyone was to drive down to the lake and see, you know, the blue water. And before I think it was difficult to get that peak, and now I think that we've really completed that work and at really very little cost to the city.
I might add that the document that you have, as I said, is going to be mailed out. We'll also make sure the copies of the press get it, and it will be both on the Forest Park Project Board's website as well as the city's website. So anybody who's interested in an update will be able to get the same information.
A very dedicated committee, and myself excluded from that. It's really a remarkable committee, and it's put in thousands and thousands of hours with really very little visible progress, but a lot of progress behind the scenes.
Tom, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And that completes my report this evening.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Next item on the agenda, comments by council members. First item under Finance Committee, GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for FY12, presented by Elizabeth Hollab.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I am very pleased to report this evening that the city has received notification from the Government Finance Officers Association that it has once again bestowed their Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the city for its fiscal year 12 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment is a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. GFOA issued a news release dated April 2nd, 2013, in which Stephen Gautier of GFOA states that the city's CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure, to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. For those who may not be aware, the GFOA is a nonprofit professional association serving 17,500 government finance professionals in the United States and Canada. And what's especially noteworthy is that we are simply continuing an excellent tradition in Lake Forest, because we're actually receiving this certificate for the 34th consecutive year. So congratulations to the city. But also on a personal note, I just wanted to say that when I graduated from college, my first job was with the GFOA. And I started out as a program associate and then a manager in the certificate program. And so my job was basically to help manage this program. So it's always nice to be on this end and be able to present the award to a city because it is a significant accomplishment. As part of the certificate program, an award of financial reporting achievement is presented by the GFOA to the individual designated by the city or the municipality as primarily instrumental in the government's achievement of the certificate. I am especially pleased to present this award tonight to Diane Hall, Assistant Finance Director, who serves as the primary liaison to the city's independent audit firm, coordinating the annual audit process and preparation of the city's CAFR. So for her office, if she has space on the wall, is this certificate, which is her award of financial reporting achievement. Thank you.
I have one quick question. 17,000 professionals, you said. Mm-hmm. What percentage of the organizations that, I mean, I guess if you were concerned, you wouldn't submit it for review, right? But so right. There's a lot of self-selection, but what?
You know, I haven't seen a recent number, but as I recall, it was about 1,500 participating entities per year that are awarded the certificate. That's probably a few years old. I don't know if there's an increased participation, but it is a very selective group that even choose to participate. This is, as they say, an impartial panel. What actually happens is the CAFR is sent out to two other government professionals that belong in the GFOA outside the state of the submitting municipality, who actually review and provide their own comments and vote as to whether or not the entity should receive the CAFR award. And then it goes back to the GFOA staff office, which is what I was a member of right out of college, who takes those impartial comments from the two reviewers, assembles them, and then submits their own final list of comments. So we do receive comments and suggestions. And so really that panel of three is who decides whether or not a certificate is awarded.
So something like 1 in 10?
Pardon me?
Did I get the sense of maybe 1 in 10, something like that? Right. So congratulations, it's great.
Elizabeth, thank you, and Diane particularly, thank you for all your great work. And don't go too far, Elizabeth. Next item on the agenda, consideration of an ordinance approving a fee schedule for the City of Lake Forest relating to water rates, and tonight would be first reading and final approval. Elizabeth?
Thank you. As we discussed at the Finance Committee immediately preceding the City Council meeting, this is a follow-up ordinance in regards to an issue that's been discussed by the Finance Committee both at their February and March meetings. But as part of the budget development process, we do 5-year financial forecasting for most of our significant operating funds, one of them being the water fund. As part of that 5-year financial forecasting, we determined the rate requirement for the upcoming year that will ensure the financial sustainability of the water utility fund. As you know, the water fund is self-supporting. It does not really receive property tax levy support, and therefore the fees assessed must be sufficient to cover both the operating and capital related costs for both the water operations and the sanitary sewer operations. So presented to you this evening is an ordinance for your consideration that would adjust the water rates 3% effective May 1st, consistent with that 5-year financial forecast. And it does have a modest impact on the users. We've provided a annual impact of both a single resident with minimal summer landscaping, so you might consider that a person who lives in a condo or apartment, as being $6.14 for the next year as the impact of that adjustment. And a family in a single-family home with summer landscape water consumption, their impact would be approximately $31.82 for a year. So it is a modest adjustment and does ensure that the fund can remain financially sustainable and support the capital improvements required for the infrastructure.
Any questions of Elizabeth? We did go through this in Finance Committee, so look for a motion.
So moved.
Have a second? Roll call vote, please, Biddy.
Alderman Waldeck.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Hurry.
Trying to confuse her.
You threw her off.
I'm sorry. Alderman Pandaleon.
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
We're okay. 6-0. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Biddy.
They're backwards.
Next item on the agenda, Public Works Committee report. Alderman Novit.
Okay, and I'll try to make this brief, but for the sake of it, included in the 2013 capital equipment budget is a $35,000 item, and it's to replace one of the 5 cars that are used for community development. There has been discussion as far as the replacement that potentially an electric vehicle will be purchased versus the existing use of recycling existing police cars for use. And there is, again, a reminder that normally the community service vehicles don't really receive a lot of mileage. And again, this is just merely up for discussion if we want to authorize the purchase of the electric vehicle versus continuing the existing practice of just recycling our existing police cars. The cost basis or the difference is in the packet that was distributed. And again, there was some discussion earlier at the Public Works meeting that we had today at 5:15, and at least coming out of the Public Works discussion was the thought that we do encourage the idea of environmental betterment, setting a certain high bar for the community to follow. However, the expense of the vehicle at this point might not be in the best interest of what we want to do. But again, we're out here for the thoughts of our fellow council members if there's a movement towards approval of the electric car at this point, or purchase of. So we're here for your thoughts.
Feedback on that?
Thinking you might be able to pick up a Fisker pretty cheap, huh?
You maybe get the whole company.
And is there any feeling, and again, there are certain pluses to it. Again, my feeling is the the cost benefit right now might not be something we want to explore, but if there's other members of council who have strong feeling otherwise, love to hear
Well,
it.
maybe for the record, since there are people out there in television land watching, it's been a while, like, I looked at the numbers yesterday, I didn't look at it again today, but I think the cost of a Chevy Volt, which was the proposed alternative to a used police car, was about $38,000.
That's correct.
And the used police car was 0. So that's a lot of money to make a statement, in my opinion. But it does sort of beg the question, why not buy a couple of police cars and then recycle those? It'll take a little longer to get there, but, you know, maybe we should be looking at that, because not all the police cars have, you know, the same performance requirements. It's just that was the thing that I thought of. It's like, okay, this is a great program, but we're comparing apples and oranges here. We're comparing a city police car that had one set of parameters when it was purchased and has now reached the end of its useful life, versus a brand new Chevy Volt.
Well, one thought was the initiative that kind of established this thought was brought in 2007 by City Council. And at that point in time, there was certain parameters, I think, that were established, and Bob could correct me if I go too far on this one. There was a type of gasoline that was encouraged to be used in cars, which
Flex
I think
fuel.
was...
Yep.
Yeah, and the dilemma being where we're encouraging the use of it, the city itself doesn't store any of this fuel, so none of the city vehicles have actually operated on that type of fuel. It's a good idea, and we'd like to put it into practice, but a lot of the initiatives from the 2007 vote really haven't put in practice. One of the thoughts, though, has been the purchase of an electronic vehicle. Obviously, without belaboring, the economic times in 2007 were a lot different than they are now. And hopefully we'll progress to a point in time where the finances will be straightened out, the confidence of the city will be strong enough where we'll want to embark in it, but we might be a little bit ahead of the curve on this. Hopefully, eventually, we'll have the opportunity to do this, but at least in my mind, it doesn't seem to be the time right now. And we want to encourage it for the future, but right now, maybe the $38,000 expense might not be the best direction to go in. And we could use the savings of money possibly for other projects that are coming forward for public works at this point. I think, unfortunately, Mike has numerous ways he'd like to spend that money for public works at this point, and they're actually fairly necessary expenses. Right. But again, I'll put it towards the council for discussion, and if there's no movement for the electronic car, we'll save it for future councils.
Sounds like perhaps, unless anybody's ready to raise their hand, I think that's a sound decision.
So moved.
I don't think we need a motion, but it makes sense. So that's great. Next item under Public Works, appointment and approval of a 3-year engineering services agreement for the city surveyor and engineer. Staff contact on this is Michael Thomas. Michael, do you want to come up for a moment? Or Kent, either one?
Oh, do I get to do it? Could do it. Well, this is your moment.
Michael never passes up a moment to
Yeah.
appear on camera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening, staff is requesting City Council approval for a 3-year agreement with Gewalt Hamilton. They are our contracted engineers. They've been with us for a little over 6 months. In that 6-month period of time, we have used approximately 80 hours at a cost of somewhere in the range of $9,000. So for a 6-month period of time, we have not used that many licensed engineer hours, and that's exactly what our hypothesis was going into this, and it has come true, that the way we've restructured engineering and using Gewalt Hamilton when we have application reviews for IEPA or IDNR or IDOT, they've been very accessible, been able to come to our offices as soon as we give them a call, and have done a very good job for us. So we are looking to lock up a 3-year agreement with them. They would keep their hourly rate the same as they currently have for the next fiscal year with no increase. Then the second and third year they would increase by 4%. But again, we're very happy with them, and we're recommending City Council approve the proposed agreement.
Any comments or questions to Michael? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the recommendation.
And I'll move to approve the 3-year contract.
Second.
I think we need a roll call vote, please, Biddy.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Waldeck.
Aye.
Alderman Pandaleon.
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
6-0, motion carries.
Thank you, Biddy, very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Michael, very much. And thank you to you, Alderman Novit. Next item on the agenda this evening is the opportunity for the citizens to address the council on any non-agenda items. Anyone out there that would like to address the council on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on. We have 13 items this evening on the omnibus vote agenda. If any council member would like to take any of those particular items separately, we may do that. I'm going to read each of them and then ask if anyone wants to break any of those out, and if not, we'll go for overall vote to approve. Items for the omnibus vote consideration would be approval of the March 18, 2013 regular city council minutes, the check register for period February 23rd to March 22nd, 2013, approval of a resolution reallocating the 2013 volume cap to the Village of Buffalo Grove, Illinois, approval of a contract for annual recreation and Croya transportation services, approval of a contract with Konica Minolta for the purchase of 4 multifunction copy machines, award of bid for a greens mower for the golf course maintenance section included in the FY 2014 capital equipment budget, award of a contract for Onwencia Road Skokie River water main replacement project, award of a contract for Wilson and West Fork Drive water main replacement project, award of a contract for a pavement management program, award of Lake Forest share of the joint 2013 annual street resurfacing program contract, award of a bid for the recreation classrooms at Everett Park HVAC replacement project included in the FY 2013 CIP budget, award of a contract for thermoplastic lane marking, and consideration of a request for an extension of a tentative plat approval for the Spiel subdivision. Any council members wish to take any of those items individually? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve all those items together.
So moved.
Second.
A roll call vote, please, Biddy.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Waldeck.
Aye.
Alderman Pandaleon.
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
6-0, motion carries.
I was anxiously awaiting the total.
Sorry.
Waiting for the scores. So.
She was counting her toes.
Thank you, Biddy, very much. Next item on the agenda is ordinances. And this evening, the item under ordinances to be considered will be the consideration of an ordinance amending the City of Lake Forest Liquor Code, second reading and final approval. And Vic, would you like to walk us through that again, please?
Thank you, Mayor Schoenheider, members of the council. In your packet, you do have a black-line version of the ordinance. The blacklining reflects the changes from the draft that you saw for first reading in the recent meeting. There are basically 5 changes that have been made, or 5 categories of changes. First, we have put it in ordinance form. You'll see that there are some recitals, and there's an effective provision and voting provision that's more formal than anything else. We've also made some minor clarifications for the implementation of the license program. I think the most important change there is that we have specifically incorporated Bassett training as part of the licensure requirement. Bassett training, if you're unfamiliar, is a don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but it's basically a training to identify patrons who may have been overserved. And it's part of the pretty commonplace standards for liquor licenses throughout the state, although it's not a specific state requirement. We have further consolidated the various license categories. We've done a few tweaking also of some of the fees in consultation with staff, but the effort there was to try to streamline it even further. And one of the things that we did If you look, it's in pages 94 through 100, but one of the things that we did was with the special event licenses, we've consolidated them so that they are effectively, instead of one for every specific discrete type of use that could have a special event license, we've combined them and simply separated between beer and wine licenses on the one hand and alcoholic, the full range of alcoholic licenses on the other. We have also modified the number of licenses to reflect the current, as well as, I may have to ask Karina to help me, I believe we've included the bistro that was recently reviewed, Presbyterian homes, and the golf course. Thank you. One of the other things in connection, right, the 950 whiskey bar, that project. One other thing that we've included with the license numbers is an automatic reduction in licenses in the event a license is terminated or decides not to renew. In the past, we've always had to go in and literally amend the ordinance to reduce it from 4 to 3, and then at some subsequent time increase it again. The purpose, as you remember, of the license number is so that if ever we're going to have a brand new licensee comes in, this is something that will come to the council for consideration. So instead of doing this in 2 steps, one that we have to reduce the number and then one that we have to increase it, we have included a provision that in the event a license is revoked or terminated or not renewed, the number of licenses will automatically be reduced so that the next person who comes in won't have a vacant license to come in and ask for, rather they have to come to the council specifically for that request. And then the final change that we made, which is on page 102 of your packet, we have reinserted the language which is in the current code that would restrict licenses at gas stations. This was something that was discussed at the last meeting, and as we discussed, it was something and is currently something in our code. We did delete it based on a prior discussion that the council had, but because of further discussion, we have reinserted that provision so that the council can either defer that discussion for another date, leave it as is so that gas stations would not be allowed to have the license, or if you wish to change that, that can be done as well at this time. So that's a broad brush of the changes. If you have any particular questions, I'll be happy to try to address them.
So what would the procedure be if we wanted to keep gas station or to have gas stations available to get a license, a liquor license?
You could have a motion to approve this for second reading with the modification to delete the reinserted provision on page 102.
And if that fails, then that is basically the vote on it.
Correct. The ordinance before you would not allow gas stations as a licensee, but if you wish to change that, you can do so. And I would add, even if we delete that provision, a gas station would have to come in and petition you to increase the license number in whatever category they seek to get a license for, because we don't have any open licenses based on the draft ordinance before you.
But Vic, can I just jump in for a second? But if it is left as it is now, which states no license shall be issued to any person where the sales of alcoholic beverages shall occur on the same zoning lot as a gas station, there would be there would be no opportunity for someone to petition us to allow for that, or could someone still petition us?
Any petition would have to be a twofold petition. One would be to modify that particular provision, and 2 would be to modify the number of licenses in whatever category they're looking for.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because it seems to me that part of what sparked this conversation was a specific request we had from a gas station owner. And so just to clarify, I just feel that we need to clarify somewhat our response to his request. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And again, I don't think that this precludes a further communication between any potential gas station owner, licensee, and the city council. It would just simply say, for now, this is what we're adopting, And we're going to have to have a separate conversation about gas stations if that's something that the council wishes to take up.
I'm not sure I
Yeah, I'm
agree
not sure I
with that.
follow.
I think you're raising the bar a lot, which we may want to do, but I mean, is that, Kathy, is that sort of what you're getting at?
No, I'm not, I mean, I don't know why we would have a separate conversation, I guess. I mean, this says that the sale of alcoholic beverage shall not occur in the same zoning lot where gas is dispensed. Isn't that pretty
Right,
clear?
that's
I mean,
the
I
current-
have, and I'll be honest, I agree with that. I don't think that gas stations should sell liquor in our community.
The current regulation, as we sit here tonight, has that language in it. The reason why it's blacklined here is that the first reading version, you may recall, had taken that out, so we have reinserted it. If the council, let me put it differently. If a gas station owner wishes to have a liquor license, they are always able to come back to the council. There'd be two changes that they would have to ask for to this ordinance. One would be the modification of this provision, which is on page 102, and two would be a modification in the number of licenses. And the council would have absolute discretion in its legislative authority to decide to do neither one or both of those changes.
So if we were to take that provision out, we could still deny the application for a gas station?
Correct, because there is not an available license.
Could I ask a general question? And it's just, again, satisfying myself. When we restrict the sale of gasoline and liquor, do we have to have some finding at least showing that there's a correlation between a reason why you would specifically have that? Or could you just arbitrarily ban it?
We would not be doing it at all arbitrarily, but we don't have to have any specific finding as to that. Keeping in mind that liquor licenses are a privilege, it's not a right, and the council has full authority to decide where, how many, if any, licenses are to be made available. A restriction on gas stations can be based on, you know, the correlation of alcohol and drunk driving. It could be based on the nature of the particular gas stations, maybe their locations vis-a-vis schools or any other number of things. I think that we don't have to identify a particular basis for doing so if the council just doesn't think it's right. In their legislative discretion, in your legislative discretion, I should say, you can decide to do that. And again, it doesn't preclude a future conversation about it. It just is where you have come to rest on that issue at any particular time.
Okay, so, yeah, again, just, it just seems, and I appreciate the concerns of members of council for current gas stations in the community. I just find it overly restrictive, maybe for the future. If we could balance these on a license application basis as they come up, yeah, I think it would be better put. I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
This is no change. This is the ordinance that's been in existence.
I was going to ask that question. Is that this is
no big
we
deal.
removed
What is
something that was
before
there
you
before?
tonight is the current ordinance.
Okay.
With
Okay.
respect to that provision.
With respect to that issue.
We're not making it more restrictive.
Okay.
So
We're
that's
simply
what
changing it
existed.
from the
Right.
version that was last before you.
Right.
Okay,
So we're not raising
Thank
the
you.
bar.
yeah.
I mean, because to me, what I was thinking was it was a two-step process now where not only do you have to get a license that may have been vacated, if you will, handed over to somebody else, but you also have to actually change the code where.
Right, you would. If you're a gas station, you would if we passed this.
Correct.
As
But
a-
that's the way it
you
was
would be
before.
changing
That's the way
the
it's-
current code, not changing, we're not making the bar higher tonight
Yes.
by this provision than it is today already.
It's all, we already have a written-in prohibition against sale. Now, I guess it's on the same zoning lot, so if you had a gas station in the front and a convenience store in the back, and it all said Mobile Express or something on it, that would fall into this bucket of being a gas station selling alcohol.
That's correct. I will say there could presumably be a situation where they are two separate zoning lots, but I think it's fair to say that the gas stations in town currently are all on the same zoning lot as their accessory store.
And Vic, I guess my question more dealt with, we had a specific request. We had a gentleman who came in front of us, and he submitted a letter to us, and he spoke to us. And I just think we owe him an answer, and I don't want to give him some sort of false hope or make him jump through all sorts of hoops in hopes of getting a license that he won't get.
This is
I think we owe him a yes or
This
a
is the
no.
answer.
Right.
Is there any other kind of business that's precluded from getting a liquor license?
Not expressly in the code. The prohibitions in the license really have to do with the character of the licensees and their background and things of that nature.
So we are singling out gas stations here and saying we
I
won't.
think that's a fair statement.
I don't think that's appropriate.
Well,
I
but
think
they
we
were
can do
singled
it on a
out before.
case-by-case basis.
But all other surrounding communities don't sell liquor to gas stations, right? We got the memo. I think other than Highwood, none of the surrounding communities sell liquor at gas stations. I think the county might, if there's a county-owned property, but none of the communities around us, like Bluff, Libertyville, Winnetka, Wilmette, Deerfield, Highland Park, none of them do.
You know, can I interrupt? This gentleman is asked to speak. I'd like to let him speak, and then we'll return back. Would you like to come up, sir, and say something? And please state your name and your address, please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, everyone. My name is Bill Lombarius at 193 East Deerpath. The concern with other villages neighboring that sell liquor, several do, but they're restricted to just in our case, the A1 liquor license, which is just beer and wine, not hard liquor. And since we met last, I had met with Kathy Zerniak, the chief, as well as Karina Walters, and addressed their concerns as far as safety, security, where the liquor would be placed, and also the video cameras and so forth, and having the not being 24 hours, and where the liquor, obviously we would have it, and 2 cashiers as opposed to 1, which we're pretty much overstaffed now. But even having liquor, we would adhere to whatever concerns you would have in moving forward.
I mean, selling just beer and wine, it doesn't make me feel better. I'll be honest with you. If someone drives up to a gas station and they buy one of those big 20-ounce bottles of beer and they get back in their car.
It's a violation of the law to have an open container of.
Oh, it is. But
So, I mean, we don't have to have an ordinance in that. If somebody goes to a gas station, gets a bottle of wine, opens it, and drives away, the police can pull them over right away.
of course.
Bill, thank you very much.
This is the same ordinance we have. It's the same ordinance that has existed for time immemorial. I see no compelling reason to make any changes, and I would like to make a motion for approval.
Second.
There's a motion for approval and a second. On the motion, roll call vote, please, Biddy.
I have challenge with it. I can't vote yes on this. I'm going to go nay.
Alderman Waldeck.
Aye.
Alderman Pandaleon.
Nay.
Alderman Tack.
Nay.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Palmer.
Nay. Can I make a motion for a second reading to adopt it, but striking the provision with gas stations?
Excuse me, Alderman Palmer. Biddy, would you read the results of that, please?
4-2, motion fails.
Motion fails. All right. Alderman Palmer, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt for second reading the ordinance as it is, but striking the provision on the gas stations.
Do I have a second for that motion?
Second that.
Again, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Waldeck.
Nay.
Alderman Pandaleon.
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
Acting Mayor Schoenheider, we do need a vote from you if you wish to cast it in order to have a sufficient vote to pass this ordinance.
So the ordinance is to remove the provision regarding the
Prohibition.
prohibition. I vote Nay.
That also fails.
Fails.
So where do we go from here?
Can we bring this up in another meeting when there are more aldermen here?
We can certainly continue this until your next meeting or whatever agenda would be appropriate for that.
Do you need a motion to continue it?
It would be best to do that, yes.
I so move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we need a roll call vote?
A voice vote will be sufficient for that.
Can I ask clarification? I know that there are going to be at least 2 members, if not 3, missing from the May 6th. Can we have the motion amended to read the May 20th meeting, where I think, at least as of this moment, everybody will be in attendance?
I accept the amendment.
Okay.
26.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Didn't hear
What,
everyone.
yeah,
Maybe
what, no,
I could
what,
do
what,
that
what was
again.
the?
I don't know if
When you're
everyone was ready.
unanimous.
I wasn't quite sure what we were voting on. This is the continuation?
The continuation.
20th meeting?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What happens if we don't continue it?
Well, we do have a practical problem. And the practical problem is, as the mayor knows, we sent a letter out to all the current license holders. Their license expires May 1st.
Okay.
And so we will send them a letter that says you're continued for another month as we work through this issue. I will also add, in response to, I think what was a question, if I heard it correctly, we did send to you a survey of what some of the other surrounding municipalities had, but based on the conversation here, we didn't, I think, ask the right question. The question we asked was, do you issue a license to them? And they said no. We didn't ask if there was a prohibition against issuing a license, and no one asked. So we will follow up and clarify for the record whether or not there is language written in the code similar to the language that was set forth here in those neighboring communities, or somebody, and I don't want to pick on Vernon Hills, but for example, Vernon Hills gas stations may never have asked, but they have a license that's available if they asked. I don't know, but we'll get you clarification before the May 20th meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. I was going to ask that question, so thanks, Bob.
All right, next item on the agenda, new business, consideration of a resolution directing the Plan Commission to consider amending the code to establish a review process for the extension of private roads outside of the city limits. Kathy Cerniak, Director of Community Development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. On an ongoing basis, we review the zoning code to look for portions of the code that need clarity, to look for any gaps in the code. We have recently found a gap in the code. There is nothing in the code that establishes a review process in the event that a private road were to be proposed to be extended outside of the city limits. After discussion with the city attorney, we're calling this to your attention because in the event a private road is extended outside the city, there could be a demand on city services, there could be an impact on community character for those neighboring homes. If you want us to pursue this, on page 121 of your packet, there's a resolution simply directing the city council, directing the Plan Commission to study this issue. If the Plan Commission decides that this issue does not need to be addressed, they would forward that recommendation to you. If they decide that the code should be amended to establish a process to allow consideration, they would forward that to you in the form of a proposed code amendment, which would be before you for action. So if you choose to direct study of this, it would be appropriate to approve the resolution on page 121 of your packet.
Any questions for Kathy on this? If none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Roll call vote, please, Biddy.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Waldeck.
Aye.
Alderman Pandaleon.
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
6-0, motion carries.
Thank you, Biddy, very much. Next item on the agenda, additional items for council discussion. Anyone else? Alderman Pandaleon, I know you have a session coming up this week about housing.
Mm-hmm.
Care to comment on that?
On Thursday evening at, okay, I have a busy schedule that night because there's an audit committee, right? 7:30? 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, sorry. From 7 to 8:30, we will have a what we hope will be a wide-ranging community conversation about really the overall housing stock in the community, and what do we have that we want to maintain? What do we wish we had that we don't have? Where do we see needs that are unmet? Where do we see housing in the community where there's too much of it? And what maybe we ought to consider doing about some or all of those things. So it's just an idea is to get community input, sort of like a community-wide, almost like a town hall meeting, just about the issue of housing going forward in the community and how it would ideally look. No dispositive actions are going to be taken. This is just for input for future planning for the city, and we really would welcome everybody, especially members of just the general public. I would anticipate we'll have a lot of people who have a financial interest in these affairs, and it'd be great to hear from people who live here and are just concerned citizens as well. So please join us and bring your thoughts and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for additional council discussion? Vic, were you gonna? Okay. Next item is adjournment into executive session to discuss matters of land disposition and land acquisition. The council will now vote to decide to go into executive session. I need a motion for that, please.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
That would be a roll
Aye.
call.
Roll call.
A roll call?
Roll call for that.
Alderman Novit,
Aye.
Waldeck,
Aye.
sorry, Alderman Pandaleon,
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Moore, or Reisenberg,
Aye.
Alderman Adelman, or Palmer, so sorry. I don't know, I can't see
Either
that.
one, aye.
6-0, motion carries.
I might just add for the record that really it's for information only. We don't anticipate coming out of session and taking any action by the city council. So for those that are in the audience, they don't need to necessarily stick around.
Thank you, Bob. We are now adjourning to executive session.
I asked them, and they said,